Yes, this is Mr. Controversy, and this is the infamous three-point conversion station. Keep it locked.
On this episode of Brownstown USA, we will dive into the crazy comments from Freddie Kitchens at his presser regarding Bob Wylie and what he was able to say on ESPN. We'll also talk about our first unofficial depth chart. So we're getting excited, man. We're starting to actually see some pieces come together there. Also, what players' stock is rising and falling as this training camp is in day 10 and going strong. Also, we have a preseason game coming up, guys. So preseason game against the Redskins, we'll give you your thoughts with that. Also, some around the NFL because we are continuing to see some holdouts. So we'll talk about that and then maybe apply it to the Browns and as far as what we can see in the future for this team. So thanks for keeping it locked with Brownstown USA. Make sure you listen to us on all your podcasting networks. Let's get into it.
Got it back because I'm brown. So what's up? Coming at you live in the wreck. Yo, dude. Represent. Mr. Roller South Town. With that east sound. As we get down.
From coast to coast, representing all the dog pound. Okay, maybe it's not the Tim McGraw entrance you were waiting for, but this is the Brownstown USA podcast powered by the three-point conversion. The three-point conversion where fans' opinions matter. I'm Eric. Over there is LA, who is fresh off a take from Browns camp and the Hall of Fame. How goes it, amigo?
What's going on, man? It's great to be back on the air with you, my brother. Great job with, from you. I know you took a vacation, much needed. So I'm hoping you got some good rest, man, some good food, and was able to relax like how you deserve, man. But it's great to get back on the airways. Great to be able to bring a show to the fans once again. We tried to record last week, Eric, without you. I guess it just wasn't in the cards. You are that secret sauce that is needed to make the recipe great. So, unfortunately, it didn't go well, but I do still want to give a shout-out to Corey Boyd from Everything Browns Nation for coming on and talking. It was a great show, guys, but audio wasn't that good and some technical difficulties. But, it is what it is, and he's great, and he said he will be back on whenever we need him. So, again, shout-out to Corey Boyd, Everything Browns Nation. Make sure you check him out. Great content. He also does a show every Sunday at noon on YouTube. So Everything Browns Nation, make sure you check that out. Great show. And like I said, again, shout out to Corey Boyd. But yeah, getting back from camp, man, getting back from Hall of Fame, great experiences, man. If you are able to get out there to the Hall of Fame, I encourage anybody to get out there. Go check out the museum. Got some great pics of, Jarvis Landry jersey being in there from him breaking, the pass catching. Got some great picks in there from Nick Chubb, and him, having the second longest run in Browns history. Also, who else was in there? I believe it was Baker?
I believe we also had you with Greg and Mr. Controversy surrounding the Super Bowl trophy.
Yeah, with the Lombardi trophy, you always got to get a picture in there. So definitely great history. Also checking out the bus of Jim Brown and Otto Graham and just different things like that. And then it just shows the history of the league. Like I said, coming up this year, they're going to do a centennial special edition of the Hall of Fame where they're going to expand their ranks and bring in some extra people. So that should be very exciting. And it was great meeting the CEO, President David Baker, a great guy, very passionate, and just loves to do what he do with the Hall of Fame. And just, partnering with Disney and stuff and how they're going to just expand and have they have a phenomenal vision for what they want it to look like. And they're going to be building on to that and having it be so much for, fan interaction and everything. So it's going to be great. So great experience and everything like that. But look, I don't want to bore you with that. The biggest thing that you came here to talk about is Browns. So, Eric, I know that you said that you really wanted to dive in deep when it came to the situation that we're going to talk about, and talking about none other than former Browns offensive lineman coach Bob Wylie getting on ESPN, sitting down. I believe it was First Take, if I'm not mistaken, or on Get Up, one of the two shows that they got there. And he basically just let it out. He let it all hang out. He has some choice words for the Browns, basically saying that Freddie Kitchens wasn't doing the coaching at all. It was Ken Zampese that was doing the coaching. Freddie was just in the background. He also has some positive things to say about some other players, about Baker and different things like that. But the biggest thing, of course, that's going to make headlines is the negative. So, Eric, I want to get your thoughts on this, man. How did you even take this? I mean, did this catch you off guard? I mean, out of everybody in the world to come out and say something, of course we expected it from Freddie. I mean, not from Freddie, but from Hugh. I really thought that maybe Ty Haley would have came out and made some comments, more recent than what he did. He finally said something, but I thought he would have been one of the first to open up his mouth and say something. But Bob Wylie, man, did it surprise you as much as it surprised me?
I'll be honest with you, not really, just because keep in mind last year when we were on Hard Knocks, Bob Wylie was probably one of the more entertaining people on the show, but not for necessarily a good reason. I mean, think about this. Like, the biggest contribution he had was this was the guy that was saying he doesn't like to stretch, or he doesn't like when his players stretch. And he was perhaps known just because of the stuff he said rather than the job he did. Like, don't get me wrong. Your offensive line got better as the season went on, but not enough to really be able to open your mouth to that extreme, if that makes sense. Like, I liked Wylie. I thought he was entertaining. He was interesting, but end of the day, part of being an offensive line coach is also being able to work with the quarterback as well, because the quarterback and offensive line have to be one and the same. And if your linemen are blocking for so long, eventually the offensive line coach should be the one that should also come in along with the quarterback coach and say, you got to get the ball out quicker. And with the quarterbacks that we had, well, none of them really have come out and actually gotten the ball out quicker until Baker Mayfield stepped up. So I don't know if Wylie said something to him or what, but the quarterback coach and the offensive line coach are usually two coaches that have to be in sync with each other. So, the comments don't really surprise me as much, but I just thought it was a weird timing more so.
Absolutely. Now, we got to see Freddie Kitchens' presser yesterday. Good thing we are now added on to where I get Brown's emails now. So I'm on their press release email list now. And we are able to get some transcript from the presser. So I was able to kind of not only watch it, but now read it and kind of digest it even more. Eric, from Freddie's Kitchens' comments and reactions to this, how did you feel like Freddie handled it? Did you like it? What did you like? What didn't you like? And then overall, just how did you take it? Freddie's reaction.
To be honest, this is one of the things that he's kind of like teetering on, if you will. Like, he did say it sincerely. He was trying to keep his cool, but it seems like he did break down a little bit with it. Like, one of the things that you got to realize as a head coach, and maybe it's just because here in Connecticut, we're so used to the Tom Coughlins and Bill Belichick's who don't open their mouth that much, and yet they have the success about how you need to really keep, for lack of a better word, quiet with it. I mean, you just shrug it off and do this. Cleveland has so much noise going on right now that it's not worth trying to feed into that. So I get why he did it, but some of the parts of the comments, like the whole staying relevant thing, I hate to say it, he probably should have left that alone a little bit, just because the more you feed into it, it's like a troll. The more you feed into it, the more they're going to come back for more.
Yeah, I mean, again, we are not a show that are Browns apologists. We don't, just sit up here and every move they make is good and we're all, kumbaya and singing their praises. This is not that kind of show. So if you're looking for that kind of show, I'm sorry, this ain't it. It is perfectly fine to disagree with something that our coach says, our players say, or our organization, a move that they make. With this, Eric, I definitely understand where you're coming from. I believe that he was very straightforward. He was honest, and he was Freddie Kitchens.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't surprise me by his reaction. He didn't surprise me by anything that he said. However, like you said, is this something that he could have maybe not touched on as much? Absolutely. The one thing I do like from the presser, though, is that after he did get done, well, initially when he did answer the first time, he said, okay, that's all I'm going to say about this. But then you know how us media is, we're able to kind of take something and wrap it back around. So he did address it a second time. But ultimately, Eric, what I got from him is that, look, okay, like he said in the presser, we're going to address the elephant in the room. We're going to get it out the way. And then once we get it out the way, we're going to move forward. And then today, that's basically what happened. No media asked about the comments anymore or anything like that. It was all football today. And that's what I liked about how he handled it, because it needed to be addressed. You know it was going to happen. You know somebody was going to ask it. Let's go ahead and get it out the way. Now, the one thing, too, that I took from this really quickly is that I think he was hurt. The thing that we know about Freddie is that he wears his emotions on his sleeve.
Right.
He has a big heart. That's one of the things that people love about this guy. And I think with him bringing up the whole, I FaceTimed him when he was in the hospital and I visited him every day and this, that, and the other, and we tried to make sure that he felt like he was still a part of the team even though he was out. That right there was a response to say, look, man, I cared about this guy, and I'm really kind of agitated that he felt the need to go on air and put on record something like this. Like, it makes no sense. And I think it caught him off guard. And I kind of feel like his feelings was hurt from it ultimately. And again, guys, that's Freddie. That's Freddie Kitchens. And when it boils down to it, like how we say about Baker, either you're going to like him or you're not going to like him. And it's the same thing about Freddie. It's the same thing about John Dorsey. Either you're going to like him or you're not going to like him. And the thing about it is that they don't care.
That's exactly it. I mean, the fact of the matter is we work in the media. More so I'm on the print side. You've been like one of the big guys that's been able to get video at times. You've been one of the guys that can do all this. But end of the day, we in the media can be sharks. I think we can all agree to that one. Like, if there's blood in the water and we get a taste of it, we want to find more out about it. We want more, pretty much. So we'll go after, like, as bad as it sounds, like the easy targets. So I do get it, but at the same time, this is something that Freddie's going to have to realize, that you got to be careful with the emotions on your sleeve with this, because the first time you show something, they're going to want more. And the fact is, it may not have come today, but it could also come next week. It could come if the Browns struggle in our first preseason game. It could come if the Browns start off 1-3. The fact of the matter is, these types of things can come at any moment, and it's always going to circle back to that. And unfortunately, with our situation, especially given that we haven't had the success that we probably should have had in the past, considering that ownership has, for lack of a better word at times, just gone ahead and let somebody go because they didn't like the guy, it's going to be a very tricky slope. So the one thing we got to take away from this is that Freddie Kitchens, he could be a good coach. We know he did great with the offense last year, unless you're Bob Wylie. But you got to be careful with what you show. These pressers may just be preseason pressers, but every press conference has a sound clip in it. And when that happens, it could last for a day, it could last for a week, it could last for a year, but if it's bad enough, it can last forever.
Right, and I definitely agree with that as well. Now, as we wrap up this, one other thing that I took from the presser that was very interesting is that Freddie said that the leaks stopped. That's it. You're not going to get any more unnamed sources that say this or say that. And if we find out about it, you will be fired immediately. Now, I am glad that he stated it, but at the same time, I believe John Dorsey had kind of already went through that and told us that from this jump when he came in. And then once Hugh was fired and Haley was fired, like, we kind of got the picture. You know what I mean? Because most of the stuff and leaks was coming from Hugh's camp or, you know, whoever wanted to run over to the side, Mike Silver, you know, stuff like that. All that stuff came from then. But as soon as we seen Hugh get fired, we seen that basically leaky faucet get fixed right away. Now, Eric, I'm going to ask you a couple of things here, and then we're going to take a quick break. But do you feel like Freddie needed to say this again? Was it necessary? And then also, too, we know as far as being in Facebook groups, being on Twitter and stuff like that, that these guys always have their source or whatever like that. Do you really believe that this source thing is done?
I do not, just because we know for a fact just how many people have leaked this type of stuff out. I mean, I hate to say it, but no matter what happens, you're always going to have some sort of leak. I mean, for crying out loud, how many times did we hear that we were in on Gerald McCoy, or when the other defensive tackle that's name is escaping me right now? You know who I mean, too.
Right.
When I mean, no matter what, leaks are going to happen because it's not necessarily going to be from our camp. It could just be from somebody else. Like if we have somebody visiting, their camp might leak something. I mean, for crying out loud, last year we all were on Twitter watching the Michael Kendricks situation. And we were checking Twitter like every 5 minutes just to see if he was going to sign, if he was going to be here. Leaks are always going to happen, unfortunately, and even after Hugh Jackson was fired and his camp was completely cut off, we had the occasional leak every once in a while. So I'm not buying the whole it's going to stop here. It doesn't, like, you can say how much someone's going to fire and get fired, but if it's from somebody else's camp, we can't do anything about that. Like, if Duke Johnson's agent just comes out and says something, we can't fire Duke Johnson's agent. We could get rid of Duke Johnson, but the way that we're talking right now, it sounds like he'll be here for a little bit longer. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, and I know it was a strong statement, and, you know, he wanted to put it out there like, look, we're just running a no-nonsense, zero-tolerance kind of thing. So I get it, and we definitely, like I said again, appreciate Freddie's honesty and his directness when it comes to this. Now, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we will talk our first unofficial depth chart that just came out from the Browns, and also some players' stock that may be rising or may be falling. So make sure you tune in to make sure to see if it's your favorite player. This is Brownstown, USA. We'll be right back.
Hey, what's good? It's your boy Nate Burrows from the NFL Network and CBS. When the illest to do it. Hey, you listening to the 3-Point Conversion Radio. Don't you go anywhere. It's lit. It's lit.
And we are back, Brownstown, USA. And as always, we are powered by the 3-point conversion. The 3-point conversion where fans' opinions matter. Make sure you hop over to the 3pointconversion.com. Get all your latest reads, MLB, NFL, NBA, Big Three, whatever it is that you want, we got it over there for you. Also follow the 3-point conversion on all your social media outlets at 3PTCNVRSN. We will get the news to you. Also fan experiences, fan reactions. Got some great video from the Pro Football Hall of Fame this past weekend, talking to fans. We also have video up of Ed Reed and Tony Gonzalez and everybody else talking and everything. So we got you covered there. Also, we're at WNBA. We're covering that. We're all over the place. So make sure you check it out so that you don't miss a beat. Also want to shout out 2 podcasts as well, a part of the 3-point conversion family. The Real Deal with Damian Adams. He is doing his thing. He interviews everybody, and he is thorough, and he has a great show. So make sure you check that out. Also, make sure you check out the 3-point conversion sports lounge with my man, Mr. Controversy, D Intellectual, and G behind the scenes doing his thing on the 1s and 2s as the producer. Great shows. So make sure you check them out as well. So, Eric, we just got done discussing Freddie's, presser about Bob Wylie. So we got that out the way. We were delighted to see a unofficial depth chart get released. Unofficial meaning not official. I don't know how else to describe that to you. It's not official. But, of course, how our fans are, because we have some of the best fans in the world, we were all in disarray somewhat of some of the names on the depth chart and where they were. Meaning, one of the ones was Duke Johnson, right? Everybody was asking where Duke Johnson was on the depth chart. Well, he was on there. He was just 4th string, listed as 4th string on there.
I got it up right now. He's actually 6th string, but people need to realize, and this is probably one of the controversial things with it, Duke's been kind of having a hamstring problem. Now, I'm not one to question injuries, but it is a little coincidental given everything that's been going on. So I know fans – but
Well, kind of giving my 2 cents on that being there. Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, and this ain't stirring up anything. I don't want to cause any rumors. But, I did see him on the sidelines. I actually got a great picture of him, Kareem Hunt and all of them on the sideline, or actually over there in the bike area, training off to the side. Mm-hmm. Duke, you could tell by Duke's face, like he's just there so he doesn't get fined kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like it's like you don't see that same Duke Johnson that you're used to seeing from these previous years. You can tell that he's clearly unhappy. So I'm not saying that I doubt the injury, Eric. I'm just saying that I know he's going to probably be extra cautious because of the fact that he wants to get out of there, and he's not going to push it like how he probably could.
Right, and that's the thing, like, it's hard to say just because, let's be honest, the fans still love Duke to an extent. I mean, trust me, I like Duke, you like Duke, everybody likes Duke, but he's not going to, he knows that he still has value is the thing, so he's not going to chance it and go out and do this, especially considering he knows that at this point, if it wasn't for a hamstring, he would probably be 3rd, probably 4th behind Hilliard because of Hilliard showing up. So that's unfortunately it.
Okay, and we'll definitely get to that in a second with the stock rising and falling. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else from this depth chart that you were able to deduce or something that shocked you or just any surprises for you on there?
Well, we all know about, like, the rumor of going to a 4-2-5, I believe it is. So that, a lot of people have been talking a lot about that lately. And maybe it's just because Jannard Avery is, I believe he's injured right now. I believe he has an issue, but the Sam linebacker, I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at who's going to be starting for it.
Go ahead.
Ray Armstrong, who last year was actually a pretty good special teams guy. So he's got a chance to do something special if that position's really utilized to what we know. I mean, we all know that chances are they're going to be running the 3 safety set because they've been using Eric Murray in those situations as the third linebacker third safety. So what's interesting to me is just the fact that Ray's finally going to get an opportunity, especially with how good we've heard Mac Wilson and Sion Takitaki actually being said to have been, as well as even Willie Harvey.
Yeah, like I'm not really, again, it's unofficial, so I'm not really putting too much stock in anything. Also, with the preseason coming up, and we'll get into this deeper when we go into our thoughts, I just feel like they're just going to have people out there playing and, you know, just to get some film on them and stuff like that. So I'm really not paying too much attention on anything besides that right guard spot, and then also who's going to start opposite of Denzel Ward, which unfortunately Denzel had a tweaker today in practice. Not sure the extent of that injury yet, but you know, a lot of people were saying that, you know, he definitely tweaked whatever it was going for a deep ball. So we'll definitely see what's going on there. But like I said, that second QB slot, CB slot, it is very interesting to me because we've seen, Greedy come in and work with the first team. Then we also seen Mitchell come in and work with the first team. So they're definitely trying their will there. TJ Carey has got some time there as well. So they're definitely trying that out. As far as right guard, they have been rotating like crazy with that.
Yeah, because remember Corbett? I know.
Yeah, Corbett, Cush, and what's the other guy's name? The last guy.
Callis, or was it what's his name? Forbes.
Yeah. But it's been pretty much a 3-person between Corbett, Cush, and Callister. Now, the one thing that is interesting is that for the last couple of days, Cush has been getting first-team reps there. So it seems like he may have an edge right now. Also, I've been hearing that Corbett and seeing it, Corbett has definitely been working with the second team at that center position, and it's been looking a lot more natural for him. So in my anticipation, I don't think that Corbett gets that starting nod. I think that Cush gets it, and I think that Corbett gets slated as like as a backup to JC, because we've seen JC play hurt last season a lot, and then he also tweaked his ankle last week as well in practice. So he is injury prone, and we definitely need somebody to be able to step up there. And they said Corbett has been looking very good at the center spot.
Right, and something else that people need to remember is this is, I believe, J.C. Tretter's last year. This is his contract year, if I remember. The fact of the matter is, and we still see this all the time, people are still calling for Corbett to get cut right now. People still want him gone. It's a bit extreme. It's completely extreme, first off. But you know what? I'm going to be honest. From what I've heard, he played a lot of center in the past, so why not give him a shot? I mean, not everyone is slated to be that left tackle, which he was originally supposed to be. Guard, and he was not. He lost the job at left guard, but that's not a big deal to me. Look, let the kid develop into something first. I mean, it's hard when you have like that rover position in college because you don't know where you're going to play once you get to the NFL. We saw it when we drafted, was it Sean Coleman, I think it was, from Florida State a few years ago, who never really found his niche at any position. When we tried him at center, when we tried him at tackle, when we tried him at guard. And then once he got to Kansas City, he found out where he was best fitted, and he's been pretty good since.
Yep, he has found his niche there, doing very good for them. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. I am not on the point of selling Corbett as a bust. Again, we had chaos at that left tackle position last year because of Joe Thomas retiring. Not something that I think that they were really prepared for, but kind of knew, but wasn't really prepared for it. And he was thrusted in there as a rookie, and that's not an easy position to pick up as a rookie at all. That's one of the most important spots on the line. And then, between bobbling back and forth and them playing around with that offensive line a lot, he just never really was able to train under one position and kind of focus in on it. And it seems like now, having a full season under his belt, now an off season, now it seems like he's catching on at that center spot. And I would not be mad or, disappointed at all if he ends up taking over that starting center spot eventually, depending on, what goes on with JC. So I am okay with Corbett. Take your time, young fella. Develop, do what you got to do, and we're going to keep pressing on. Now, let's get into the players that you see stock rising and falling. As far as rising, I will definitely say that the wide receiver position is very intriguing to me because we know Odell is a lock. We know Jarvis Landry's a lock. But then after that, we've been seeing a lot of different kind of looks here. We've all wanted to crown Rashard Higgins, which it looks like, he's going to be out there at that third spot. And then 4th, 5th, and 6th, kind of just we've seen a combination of like Derek Willis, who's been having an awesome camp. There's been a lot of guys that have been kind of rotating there. Mm-hmm. And I'm just, like I said, Willis to me has been having a phenomenal camp. Also, we had some mentions from Pharaoh Brown, who put on a show at the Orange and Brown scrimmage. He's been doing really well. So, Eric, who's some of the rising players for you that you've been seeing?
I brought up the wide receiver position. One guy that I've heard everything good about so far in his camp has been Jalen Strong, which Strong, from what I've been hearing, has been showing to be the top-tier 4th wide receiver guy, which is shocking because he never really could get off in Houston, if you remember. But he comes here. He's been the one wide receiver that I've heard has had his name called completely. He's made great catches, barely has dropped anything. To me, that stock is probably the highest it's been since he was drafted.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Especially Jalen. He, to us right now, is being how that Brashard Perriman was supposed to be for us. That big body guy, fast and everything. So he sort of has Callaway speed. I'm not saying he's faster than Callaway, but bigger body. So they've been using him very well, and I think he will be a key contributor. And I know everybody's thinking like, well, why are they talking about 4th string, 5th string, 6th string wide receivers? Well, here's why. We've seen Jarvis be able to get banged up a little bit. We've seen Odell get banged up. The thing is that we need depth at that position, but also too, people know, or they're gonna figure out or have schemes drawn up for Odell, have schemes drawn up for Jarvis. But then you throw out a guy like Jalen or Derek Willis, and they're like, okay, well, how are they about to use these guys? With Callaway, we seen last year that a lot of times they just wanted him to go out there and just run a straight line. Now, hopefully that changes a little bit. He's been getting and coming on stronger as of late compared to coming into camp not being in shape as much, as Todd Monken kind of alluded to. But they've been saying that he's been having some great camps these past few days. So he's coming on better. But, again, like I said, we will be so deep at this position that we'll be able to throw anything at anybody, and they really won't be able to plan for it, man. So, very, very, very intriguing to see what's going on with that wide receiver position and see who sticks. And then also, again, like I said, alluding to Pharaoh Brown, because we've seen Seth DeValve being out with concussions. And, so that second string tight end it seems like it's kind of wide open now behind Njoku. So we've seen Pharaoh, big body, big guy. I think he's actually even bigger than Njoku. And he's been making plays, man. So, that's going to be extremely interesting. One other guy, too, man, that I wanted to mention whose stock is just going out of the stratosphere right now is Mack Wilson, our rookie linebacker. Yesterday, I think for 3 or 4 days straight, this guy's had a pick six in all of the practices, man, and it has just absolutely been putting on a show. Even Friday, he took one to the house, and then he like tossed the ball up in the air, and I think took out a computer, which was kind of funny. But he's absolutely been doing his thing too and looking the part. We knew Mack Wilson had talent. We did. The biggest thing about him was the off the field issues, and all I've heard and seen has been him being a model citizen since being in Cleveland. So I want to get your thoughts, with Mack Wilson, with Taki. We already know what Schobert and Kirksey brings to the table. But I think this is very interesting, Eric, to see what goes on behind those two and maybe ask you, like, how, do you think Schobert and them are kind of feeling a little heat from these rookies?
I think, I'll be honest with you, the one guy that probably would feel it is probably Schobert, because his contract's up at the end of the year too, if I remember correctly. So in that sense, I think Schobert does feel it. Kirksey, I think, may, just because there have been points where Kirksey, some people have questioned him. That's not up for me to decide. I've had people write to me actually asking if Kirksey was worth at least being traded or being considered to be traded, all that stuff. But that's just speculation from fans. That not for nothing, that does not concern us completely at this point. Now,
right, it's speculation.
Exactly. So the big thing is here, these linebackers have completely stepped up. Their stocks are rising, and you know what? It's the same thing that we saw with Jannard Avery last year, because going into last season, nobody was talking about Jannard Avery. They were like, who is this kid? This kid's not going to do anything. He was a day 3 pick. Comes in, shocks the world, because people were like, he's fast, he can hit. He was that diamond in the rough that John Dorsey has always been known for. And I'm not going to say that Taki is going to be a diamond in the rough, because even though nobody talked about him, he was still a day 2 guy. Mack Wilson is going to be that, because this was a guy that we were talking about in our pre-draft special when we were saying we need to watch this guy, because people were talking about all the Alabama linebackers, but nobody was bringing him up except for really me and you. He gets drafted, and we have not heard a single bad thing yet.
Absolutely. Well, look, man, let's take a quick break. When we get back, we'll talk about what player stock is now falling. And then also, too, we'll jump into some around the NFL, because there are some big headlines that I want to discuss with you, Eric, and then possibly see if this may affect the Browns in any kind of way. So, again, you are listening to Brownstown USA. Keep it locked.
That city loves that kid. Yeah. I got out of my car and said, hey, man, what do you guys think about Baker Mayfield? Y'all like him? Yeah. He said, no. I said, man, what'd Baker do? He said, we love him. Right. So that team's on fire. And watching what he did last year, to seeing how they're going to build upon that and go in this year, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. Real accurate passer, got a good head on his shoulder, makes good decisions. See what happens.
And we are back, Brownstown USA. I'm LA, and across from me, as always, is my man, Eric, a.k.a. Stoshball. We're doing our thing. Make sure you follow us, me at LA_Broadus on all your social media outlets. My man Eric on Twitter at Stoshball, and on Instagram at I_am_Stoshball. And then also, too, follow Brownstown USA. We are everywhere, all over the social media as well, at Brownstown USA. Make sure you check us out. We are giving you all your fan experience, and then also this show. So we're doing our thing. Anywho, we just got done talking about player stock that is rising, Eric. Very, very good conversation there. Now I want to hop on the opposite end, because as we know, with everything, things rise, but also things fall. So what player are you looking at, or players are you looking at that you were like, dang, they ain't really doing nothing to me. They ain't really showing me anything. Who's those players for you?
Well, one of them is going to contradict what you said, the first one I got. And that would actually be Derek Willie's, believe it or not. One of the things that I heard, because I know you were talking about how great he looked. Monday, from all the reports I read, he did not have a good day other than the video that circulated, the catch. But one of the things that I guess did happen, according to Cleveland.com, was that he actually had a talking to during the practice because I guess he messed up on a few plays. Now, mess-ups happen. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to pin that on him because we all make mistakes. We blow routes. We do all this stuff. We're not in the heads of players, if that makes sense. But when you're fighting for a job like this, and let's be honest right now, this is the stiffest competition that we've really seen for the job market in Cleveland at the wide receiver position. Because last year we only knew that Landry was going to have a starting gig. This year you have Landry, you have Beckham. It's pretty much assumed that Callaway and Rashard Higgins are going to have gigs as well. After that, it's just a straight line of blank at this point. So I hate to say it, but even the slightest mess-ups are going to set you back a little bit, especially considering, as I said before, Jalen Strong had himself a day. There was one other guy in the wide receiving core that the name's escaping me right now that was said to have had a huge day. So
you talking about Hyman?
It might have been Hyman, but the thing is, every little mess up at this point, it doesn't matter how major or minor, it's going to set you back a little bit. So unfortunately, as good of a camp as he has, that's going to be a little bit of a stumble.
Yeah, I understand that, and I get it. As far as the guys that I'm looking at, of course, the obvious one is going to be, and I know that I gave him a lot of encouragement earlier, but I would say Austin Corbett, because of the fact that we thought that he was going to be the guy that would come out and just win the right guard position. He has not come out and done that, and we have heard Freddie say, look, I'm just waiting for a guy to step up. So kind of disappointing there. So that's why I would say his arrow's pointing down. Another position group actually that's pointing down is the kickers. We've seen Greg Joseph do good things, but even today, even though he nailed a kick for their pressure situation or their game time situation, he nailed a 50-yarder, I believe. He is still, for the day, he was still like 3 of 5. Then we also seen the kicker that we drafted,
Austin Siebert.
Siebert, yeah. He has not been consistent either. And at any point in time, if you are sitting there having to interview a coach talking about your kicker position, I'm going to give you an arrow pointed down because that's something that we shouldn't have to be worrying about. And we've seen the woes that we had from last year. However, it is a silver lining there because, of course, if we would have made those kicks, maybe Hugh would still be here. So it's kind of a catch-22. However, we do not want to worry about that. We have too much of a talented team to go out there and have to worry about our kicker not making a game winner or something like that. So I definitely want to give an arrow down for them. Another person I'm going to give an arrow down to is going to be, like I said, Seth DeValve. I mean, he's been injured. He hasn't been out there that much. He's been a guy for us that we thought was pretty just a reliable guy, right? That could block and, you know, he could catch a couple passes here and there, but not really known for his pass catching, but, you know, was just a reliable spot for us. Even though he may have not been penciled in as a starter, he still was a reliable spot for us. And now we're talking about Pharaoh Brown and possibly somebody else coming up and maybe taking over that spot for him. The best thing we've always heard is availability is the best thing, is availability. And a lot of times in training camp, if the coaches are seeing a guy on the field every single day, then they're going to start catching the eye of the coaches. But if you're not out there, you're not doing anything to help yourself out at all. So that would be another guy that I got an arrow pointed down on.
I've got a couple more that I would actually like to put arrows down to. Speaking of that one, at this point, and I know this one, we just talked about it, Duke Johnson at this point. I mean, I get that I get he's disgruntled. Don't get me wrong, but how many times have we seen somebody be so disgruntled about where he is, not putting in like the full effort, not wanting to push and all that? He finally gets what he wants, and then when he actually goes somewhere else, he struggles to get back into it. I mean, we saw it with Albert Hainsworth when he went to Washington. We've seen it with Randy Moss to an extent, even. Like, when you don't want to push just because you're not doing well, I hate to say it, people are not going to – it's going to give you that bad image. We're seeing it with Trent Williams right now, which we'll get to a little bit later. But it just does not look good at all. And it starts to become a habit. The only other guy I want to put in there is TJ Carey, believe it or not, just because I heard there were a few plays he got burned on badly, including the Derek Willis catch.
Yeah, he's definitely been up and down. I know they've been throwing him in there in different sets because, again, 4-2-5, something different for everybody on that team. So he's been used in various positions. So I know he's trying to get – I've seen him have some good days, and I've also seen him have some bad days. So a fair point there, a very fair point. But, look, you've alluded to it, and you said his name already, but let's get into some around the NFL. Now, around the NFL, we have seen some prominent holdouts, one being Ezekiel Elliott. And then also, too, we got some news today saying from Josina Anderson that Ezekiel does not plan on playing this year without a new contract. A couple of things I want to ask you about this situation, Eric. One is do we see Ezekiel on the field this year?
I think we do. Like, I hate to say it, I don't see him being the type of guy that's going to be like Le'Veon Bell last year. I mean, not for nothing, but Ohio State's always had a reputation of putting out great players, but every once in a while they have that one guy that comes out and for some reason doesn't play. I don't think Ezekiel Elliott in this regard is that at all, but he's going to have to realize if he wants to get paid, he's got to show that, one, despite any of the issues that may have come off the field, I'm not saying he did them, he's got to show that he can move past it is the thing, because he's one of those guys that is similar to Freddie Kitchens in a way, that he wears his, he wears his emotions on his sleeve. So he's got to realize you can't, it's hard, as hard as it is for a coach, it's even harder for a player because the players are more mic'd up nowadays. So you have that. I think we will see him, but if I'm Jerry Jones right now, I would also try to open up the bank a little bit because the thing is, he's one of those rare running backs right now that is a game changer. Like, I'm not saying running back is not a game-changing position anymore, but there's so few and far between right now that if you have the opportunity to lock one up and it's someone that is that next level game changer, you got to get them signed and get them under control.
No, I absolutely agree. I really think in this situation that, yes, Ezekiel does have a point here, and I have no problem with him getting his money, and I believe that a deal will get done. However, I think the hesitation is like how you said, the off-the-field stuff. Like, it's like, okay, and it seems like that's what Jerry Jones is, like, alluding to. Like, dude, I want to open up my bank account for you, you know, and write you that check that you want. But at the same time, like, I don't want to give you this humongous contract, and then we know that you're the type of partier that you are or something like that, and then the first thing you do is you go out there and you're on a yacht somewhere or something happens. You know, so it's kind of like a catch-22 because Ezekiel, to be honest with you, it seems like Ezekiel's the one to blame for the fact that he hasn't had that big contract yet. And that's because it's always something going on with him in the headlines that's not football related. So it's like Ezekiel is the blame for Ezekiel right now. But he does have a point. I feel he has a better point than what Melvin Gordon is doing with the Chargers, because Ezekiel, like you said, is that different type of running back. And the way that the Cowboys have built their team with them drafting all them offensive linemen all these past years and stuff like that, they have built their team for Ezekiel Elliott. So, you know, the Cowboys need him, especially if they have Super Bowl aspirations. They're going to need him. So I definitely see him being on the field. Now let's get to one other big name, and the reason why it's really intriguing because a lot of people out there want the Browns to trade for him, and that is Trent Williams. He is holding out with the Washington Redskins. However, Eric, this is a peculiar situation because this is not about money. This is about the fact that Trent Williams is blaming the Washington Redskins and their training staff for the amount of injuries that the Redskins have endured all these years. And we have seen this even last year. Everybody was on the IR for Redskins. I mean, there was like a month where everybody was just getting put on the IR. And honestly, I felt they were going to hold open tryouts at the local Walmart because they just really could not keep anybody on the team. So I really feel that Trent Williams has a point. And even if you don't feel like he has a point, it's all about how he feels at the end of the day. And if you can't trust your team with your body that you're going out there and laying it all out there for, then you have a humongous issue. So my question to you, Eric, real quick about this is, do we see Trent Williams in a Redskins uniform again, or do we see him traded? And if he is traded, do you want the Browns to maybe go ahead and kick tires on that?
Well, I do think that he does have a really good point. Let me go ahead and just flat out lay that on the line. Like, he's got a very good point because Washington has always had this injury problem, at least in the Gruden administration, because how many times did RG3 get hurt? If you even want to go back to it, do you remember how Kirk Cousins got the job? It's because he got hurt because the Redskins team doctor said he can go ahead and play even though he wasn't cleared to do so in that wild card game, and it was an atrocity at that point. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm all for letting your guy go do what he does best as long as it's in the interest of the team. But the problem is, this has happened on such consistent basis that they look like us after a while. I mean, for crying out loud, we've seen Colt McCoy on the field more times than we probably should have. I'm pretty sure he's probably played as many games in a Redskins jersey, starting or making an appearance, as he did in Cleveland. That's not okay. It's not okay that you've had so many injuries just coming out of Washington like that. Is it something in the water? Perhaps. Is it something with the training staff? Again, perhaps. But it makes me question some of the stuff. As for your question about do I want to see him in a Browns jersey, plain and simple, no, I do not. But it doesn't have to do with this. What it has to do with is Trent Williams, who is a left tackle, has a bit of an injury history. That's the one thing that scares me, because when left tackle has become such a crucial position, and when you have someone that's been hurt almost every year since college, that's kind of a red flag, even more so than the whole doctor thing. Like, that's just my personal opinion on it. I don't want Trent Williams, especially considering the Redskins have been asking a lot for this kid.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to break down, man. Like, I don't have a problem with Trent Williams being in a Browns uniform. I have a problem with seeing what the compensation is. As you alluded to, he does have an injury history. I do get it. But at the same time, I feel that the Browns have a great training facility. So I think a lot of that stuff that he experienced out with the Redskins won't necessarily be the same if he got here to Cleveland. The intriguing part to me, Eric, about us getting him is that if we do, we immediately plug him in at the left tackle position, and now that solidifies that position, and then it allows you to have more depth as well, because now the Greg Robinson that would have been starting at left tackle now can be slid to either second string to be able to back up in case Williams goes down. But also, too, maybe that opens up some things about, okay, well, maybe we'll go ahead and slide somebody over here to the right guard or something like that. And maybe it just goes ahead and just solidifies everything. However, we're, a month out from, game one of the regular season. And I don't want a guy coming in too late into training camp either, where it's going to be so much of a learning curve and we're going to maybe drop a few early games because this guy's trying to get used to it. And we already know, especially with seeing our schedule, that these first couple of games that we're going to open up with in the regular season, it's going to be very important for us to start off fast. But at the same time, I guess not, because most of our divisions games are a little bit later in the schedule. So I guess, it is what it is. But I would really love for us to get going early, because I feel like we have the names and the attention on us that if we do go 1-3 or something like that, man, the noise is going to be so deafening that I am actually not trying to see how this team handles that. Like, I don't want them to try to handle that. I don't need us to handle that. We've been through that enough, and we just need to go ahead and start off fast. So great points there, man. Great points. Look, listen, guys, we have a preseason game among us. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about that. We face off with the Redskins on Thursday, so it should be a doozy for you guys, okay? So we'll get into that. This is Brownstown, USA. Keep it locked.
What up, sports fans? It's your boy Damian Adams from The Real Deal with Damian Adams. Now, you can catch my show weekly here on the 3-Point Conversion station. I'm always bringing that real sports talk for the real sports fan. But if you're hearing my voice right now, that means you're living life correctly, because you're listening to Brownstown with my man LA and Eric. Make sure you stay tuned. Tell your friends about the show, because you know they bringing that real for you, that knowledge for you here on Brownstown.
And we are back, Brownstown, USA, with LA and my man Eric, a.k.a. Stashball. We are doing a thing just wrapped up around the NFL, talking about some Ezekiel Elliott and some Trent Williams situations and what we think about that. But, Eric, we actually have a preseason football game among us on Thursday. We face off against the Washington Redskins. Of course, excitement level is going to be at an all-time high. But at the same time, Eric, are you really that excited? I mean, we heard Myles Garrett talk earlier on NFL Network saying that he's going to be out there. He's going to play. He said he's going to show some flashes, but he's not going to go all out, of course. But we've seen a trend also starting off that a lot of big-name players that came out on their teams and said they're not going to play any preseason games at all. So my question to you is this. Are you okay with our starters playing in preseason? Are you in favor of it? I mean, do you kind of want just kind of like how it normally is, hey, let's play a few series or one series and then get up out of there? How nervous are you overall about preseason for this team?
You know what? First few games, I have no issues with the starters playing, to be honest. I mean, I hate to say it, but this is the reason why we, for the last few years, have been doing the quote-unquote earn your stripe program. So that way, if you have when you have your players out there, you can just go ahead and say, look, go out there and earn your spot. No more of this, you're going to get it handed to you, bunk. Like, the only one that probably doesn't need to earn a stripe, but he's still taking part in it, the only ones are OBJ at this point, Myles Garrett, and Baker Mayfield at this point. So, well,
right.
That's a lot of times I said at this point, but that's beside the point. Like,
well, for me, preseason is different this year because this is probably one of the first preseasons that we've seen in a long time where pretty much all of our roster is locked in for starters, right?
Right.
Before we've gone into preseason, we needed to see our rookie quarterback and, or that guy that we just signed at quarterback, we need to see how he plays. So they needed reps and different things like that. But it's like this year, man, we got our starting quarterback, which just seems still weird to say. And pretty much every other position is locked up. This preseason, it's really for that real football fan when it comes to the Browns, right? Because we're going to be looking at guys that are fighting for roster spots, not guys that are fighting for starting positions necessarily. So this is going to really test our know-how because we're going to be needing to look and see who stands out, who can maybe lock up that third spot, that fourth spot, and not get cut. So this is going to be extremely interesting. One of the things that I wanted to really look at in this is how does our quarterback do behind Baker, right? We know we got Stanton there, and we know that we have what's his name?
We have David Blau and Garrett Gilbert competing.
Garrett Gilbert is the guy that I'm looking at. He's shown flashes in training camp with having a big arm, and I'm really looking forward to that. Kitchen said today that, and he brought up his time in Arizona where they only had 2 quarterbacks on the roster, and a week where he said he's seen his starting quarterback go out and then seen his backup go out as well. And then at that point, they were signing guys like every single week, and they were starting the next game, the guy that they just signed. So it really seems to me like we are going to carry 3 quarterbacks on this roster. So it's going to be very interesting to me to see if somebody can maybe overtake Stanton for that second spot, or who just lands at that third spot because, God forbid, Baker goes down for a little bit or anything like that. Like, we're going to really need to see who will be able to come in there and kind of maybe just keep us afloat until Baker comes back. So different things like that. The right guard position, of course, like I said, that second cornerback position. And then also, Eric, seeing the schemes, right, too, is going to be very important in this whole entire preseason. Seeing how we scheme, seeing how much we run the ball, and then also seeing that new 4-2-5 defense out there as well, seeing how much we rush the passer and what we do there. That's going to be very big too. And then also one last thing, seeing how our special teams does, not only from a kicking standpoint, but also from a coverage standpoint, because we were atrocious with, with kickoff returns and punt returns and different things like that. So it's just going to be some of those things that you need to look at from a fan standpoint of those different points that I just brought up, because it's not going to be the same preseason that we're normally used to as Browns fans.
Absolutely. Plus, to add another position, and this is going to be interesting to me at least, I'm also watching the tight end position in this one, just because, as you said, last year we had a feeling that Seth DeVal was going to make the team. People were questioning if our Wonder Boy, thanks to Hard Knocks, was going to make the team.
Right.
But, like at the end of the day, you got to realize right now, tight end is very competitive because in addition to DeValve and Njoku, you have the tight end that we just got from Kansas City. You got Pharaoh Brown, as you mentioned. And, hey, guys, guess who's still here? Orson Charles at this point. So that's 5 tight ends that are vying for essentially 2 or 3 slots right now. So someone's gonna starve at this point, and that's gonna be something to watch. I also want to see, just as you mentioned with the defense, how aggressive this team's gonna be, because I hate to say it, last year this defense was too aggressive at times. They would blow by the running backs, and we would not be able to catch up, and they would break big ones on us. We were too focused for going after the interception rather than knocking the ball down, and wide receivers got to us. People forget that while we were one of the best teams at causing turnovers, we were in the bottom half. Hell, we were in the 20s for overall defense in almost every category. There's one other thing I want to watch right now, and this might sound bizarre. I want to see how Kareem Hunt can do, just because we haven't seen this guy since week 11 of last season. The guy we know can be a catalyst on offense. We know that Nick Chubb is going to be great as well, but we want to see, did Kareem Hunt take a step back at all? Is there a lot of how much rust there really is at this point? Just because if that's the case, he's not playing on a big contract. He's on a 1-year basis. And you know what? Even John Dorsey has been making mention of he has no problem getting rid of him if he screws up again. So I want to see if how he does on the field right now, because if there's any hint of, like permanent rust, it's not going to be good for him going forward.
Well, looking at him, and he just got cleared to practice, as we both know, this Saturday. But he was dealing with a groin injury, and the coaches kind of alluded to it was probably because he was going so hard in the off season as far as training. So maybe he should dial it back a little bit. But when he's been out there on the field, he has been embarrassing people. So I understand where you're coming from, because you definitely want to see it against other players, different players. But I have no doubt in my mind that Kareem Hunt is still the Kareem Hunt that we all know, and I don't have any issues with him whatsoever. So, but you're right. It'll be interesting to see how much they play him as well. Like I said, with him coming back off of a groin injury, I know that they're going to probably try to take it a little bit slow to kind of ease him back in there. But we'll see during this week, how much he practices. And that'll lead up into the preseason game, man. So that is a wrap for Brownstown USA. Again, thank you guys for listening. Make sure you catch us on all, like I said, podcast networks. And if we are doing a good job, make sure you help us out and smash that 5-star rating for us, and make sure you recommend us, man. And we will be back. We might have another show at the end of this week, maybe just to kind of wrap up what we saw from the preseason game. So me and Eric will talk about that off air and try to get our schedules lined up for that. If not, you will definitely see us again next week. Eric, it's almost time, man, for us to go back to two-a-days, man, for the week, man. 2 shows a week it's almost time, man. Regular season football is right around the corner, and I know you guys are all excited just as well as we are. So again, thank you guys for listening to Brownstown USA. We will see you soon.
See you soon, and go Browns. Woof, woof.
Never die.